Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the CD Sport Podcast with me, Kerry Davis. Joining me today is former Wallaby player with 78 caps for his country, Wallabies legend, Mr. Chris Latham. How you doing, Chris?
Very good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you coming on, mate. I know it's quite hard arranging these chats, especially you're on the other side of the world, being in Australia and me in Wales, and it's a Sunday evening for you. So, yeah, appreciate you coming on.
Not a problem at all.
Have you been setting your alarm for the games over here?
Yeah, been watching, and obviously results haven't been so good for the Wallabies, but obviously very good as of this morning for this morning for me for the Irish. A very good game, but if I'm honest, Ireland traditionally play very well against New Zealand and really front up physically, mentally, and it certainly showed this morning.
Yeah, it was a cracking game. Yeah, they really upped their game for that, didn't they? But like you said, Ireland always do well against New Zealand, to be honest, didn't they? But
yeah,
that's Welsh. I don't think 60 years. I don't think we've beaten the All Blacks ever. We just can't do well against them. Against South Africa, I know we lost to South Africa last week, but we normally do it right against South Africa and on the Wallabies. I know the Wallabies, beat us a lot as well, but
yeah,
we do tend to go right against them. But yeah, I know the Wallabies, they're having a bit of a tough go over in the UK at the minute, and I know they went into the tour with a five match winning streak too, didn't they? So I'm quite surprised how they haven't had the run they wanted so far over here.
Oh, mate, European rugby, or playing in Europe for starters, and playing against European teams, it is honestly a different ball game, and it's a different way of playing. It's a different mentality. The atmosphere is different. The whole landscape of rugby is completely flipped on its head compared to when you're playing in the Tri-Nations and things like that over here against obviously South Africa and New Zealand. So, I just think they've probably been a little bit caught surprised. I think the last couple of weeks they don't look like they haven't looked settled. They haven't looked comfortable within themselves or within the game, and and you can. Having played obviously over there so many times, it's a different beast. It's a different game. The environment, the crowd, everything about rugby in Europe is completely different. So and you can just see that it's just made them very uncomfortable, and they haven't been able to for that to sit easy as yet. But hopefully, fingers crossed, that comes this weekend. But it's going to be a tough one, another tough one. Yeah,
coming to Cardiff, you've played in it's called the Principality Stadium now, but like you say, it's quite enclosed, isn't it? And it's right on top of you. And if we shut the roof as well, us Welsh can sing loud,
Oh, it's obviously I call it Millennium Stadium, whatever it is, whatever it's called now. But for me, it's one of the best, if not the best stadium in the world. Obviously the grass or the pitch isn't always as good as what you can find elsewhere around the world, but as far as atmosphere goes, it's actually the best in the world.
Yeah, funny you say that, because we were talking before, I used to live in Australia, and I used to go and watch a lot of the Super Rugby, and the Melbourne Rebels were playing the Brumbies, and I got to speak to David Pocock after the match. And he was saying his favorite venue is Millennium Stadium in the world, and like you say, he's been around the block, and and like I said, especially when they shut the roof, it keeps the noise in there as well, But I listened to Dave Rennie and Cooper's post-match interview, and one of the media asked him that question: do you think that the crowd, having a full house and the crowd is affecting the results, and has the pressure got to the Wallabies? Because the Wallabies have got quite a young team over here too, haven't they, at the minute? And they are missing a lot of...
I don't think it's too much as far as pressure. I think it's just more the fact that it's just different, you know, and you've got to be able to react, and you've got to be able to, I guess, understand it and accept and find, you know, it's. I wouldn't say get overawed by the occasion either, but it's just, for me, the Wallabies just haven't. They just don't look settled. They don't look comfortable in the environment which they're in at the moment. And you know, considering I thought Dave Renier did a superb job during the Tri Nations and the games here against New Zealand and South Africa, where you know every game they built, every game. You know, that you could just see them getting better. You could see them getting comfortable. You could see them starting to relax and just play footy. And that was, you know, they were good signs. But yeah, they just don't have that same look to them at the moment.
Well, fingers crossed we'll have a good game next week now. Well, this week I should say. I've lucky enough got tickets to go up, so yeah, I'm hoping it'll be a good game. I'll be in my Welsh jersey, and my girlfriend be in a green and gold. So yeah, I wouldn't mind just talking a bit about you as well, Chris. Like you said, I got some of your stats here. Bloody second ever highest try scorer for the Wallabies. Are you still the highest try scorer ever for the Queensland Reds? Have you got the record? Well, you don't know.
Wouldn't have a clue.
When I was reading up, I don't know what, you know, sometimes it could be a few years old, but yeah.
Oh, actually, yeah.
Yeah, so the highest try scorer for the Reds anyway. I'll take that.
Yep.
And
Take it.
You've played in 3 World Cups. You've won Bledisloe Cups. You've won Tri Nations Cups. You were part of the Lion series in 2001. So the Wallabies won that. So pretty illustrious career, Chris. You know, do you ever look back and think like, oh, yeah, I've done a bit in my playing days?
Yeah, I guess now, obviously now retired, and it's been quite some time. You know, I think back to how it was back then and how I see it now. And, you know, I certainly feel very lucky and very fortunate to the way that I had it. You know, when I first started playing rugby, you know, I didn't go to a private, you know, the traditional way of going to a private school and, you know, playing first 15 for your school, and then going in through the schoolboy, like through that schoolboy way. And then, you know, I was just a country kid from a small town, and moved to Sydney and started playing club footy. And, you know, my first club, thankfully, was Randwick. And, you know, when I turned up to Randwick, you know, all of a sudden I've got a guy like, all of a sudden a guy comes over to me and says, righto, it's you and me. We're training together tonight. All the drills, you're with me. And it just continued. And, you know, a couple of nights went by, and, you know, I said to one of the guys, who's this bloke that keeps grabbing me to do all the drills? Yeah. And they go, what do you mean? Don't you know who that is? And I was like, and they're like, that's David Campese.
Wow, Jesus.
And I was like, oh, really? Because, you know, I never followed rugby. I never had a passion for rugby when I was young. And, you know, and then all of a sudden, you know, I played 2 years of Colts, and then the following year I'm in grade, and I play first grade, and I'm in a first grade final, and I've got 13 Wallabies around me, you know, and there's me and the other guy who was a professional rugby player. He was contracted with the Waratahs.
Yeah.
So I had 14 contracted players playing around me, you know, and I just think, you know, that certainly doesn't happen now in Australia that way. You know, we don't get Wallabies or contracted players coming back and playing much club footy. So, yeah, I was very blessed to have that start, and then, you know, to have to move to Queensland and have the likes of, you know, Tim Horan, John Eales, you know, Dan Crowley, I mean, David Wilson. The list goes on and on and on and on. You know, Ben Tune, Daniel Herbert. Like, you can just, I mean, I can just keep going and going, and you've got those kind of guys around you. And then all of a sudden, my first year at Queensland, I'm on tour playing my first test, you know, and I've got George Gregg and Stephen Larkham, Tim Horan, um, Daniel Herbert, and Joe Roth all in the back line. So, you know what I mean? Like, and you just think to yourself, you know, I was very, very fortunate. And then just to carry that on for the 14 years that, you know, that followed, and, you know, and to win the Bledisloes and Tri-Nations and World Cups and Lions series. I mean, that they're all just, you know, very obviously very special moments.
Yeah, and like I say, like you say, you weren't a passionate rugby player when you were younger, and like I didn't realize you were 17 when you started playing rugby. Like you said, that's pretty late on, isn't it? You know, like you said, you wouldn't really have that too often these days.
No. I mean, you know, the traditional, I guess, sense of a rugby player goes his whole schooling year through a GPS or a private school, and you know, has that background. So yeah.
What? How old were you with your first cap as well, Chris? When you played for the Wallabies?
In 98. So what was I then? 75, 85, no, 20, 22, 23, 22.
Oh yeah. Like you say, the following year you were in the World Cup squad. I know you only played. I know you've only played the one game, but you're still part of the winning squad. You know what I mean? And you're still young then. But yeah, I was quite interested in reading. Actually, you played in 3 World Cups. And before the 2003 World Cup and 2007 World Cup, you had like pneumonia just before the 2003 World Cup. You had to hang upside down for 2 weeks, is it, to drain your lungs and stuff?
Yeah, I was a very, very, very sick boy before that. Before that, yeah. So got very sick. I had pneumonia. I had influenza and 2 other super bugs and some other thing they couldn't figure out what it was, and then it turned obviously that all that turned into pneumonia, and I was getting drained and getting the lungs drained, and then I think it was about a week and a half or a week after leaving hospital, you know, I had to attend our first camp up in Darwin before the World Cup started. So, you know, I had a lot of scarring and a lot of issues getting back into fitness and training and running. So yeah, it was a pretty tough time trying to get right for the World Cup, and then both physically and mentally in the end.
I was like, I had to laugh because like you started feeling bad just before you played it was against a match against the All Blacks, is it? And you were like really crook. You had temperature of 39 degrees, but you said there was no cover, so I just manned up and played. So well,
there was.
You know,
it was a test match, you know, and obviously you want to play in them, and you don't want to give up your spot, and you just got in, dug in, and got on with it. But it didn't do me too good in the end.
No, I would say, and against all teams as well, you know, fair enough if you dug in and played against, you know, a bit of an easier team, but someone like New Zealand, the best in the world, shows a testament to your character. And obviously then before the 2007 World Cup, you did your cruciate ligament, did you? Just before? Oh no, start of the season, was it? And you didn't play all season? Something like that?
Yeah. So I had a habit of going over the European tours and then coming back, and then just before Christmas, I'd go back to the Reds and start training during their pre-season, and obviously just knowing how hard pre-season was, and knowing they were a young bunch of guys getting into it, I'd always make the effort to go down a couple of weeks before Christmas and before they finished, just to do 2 weeks of training and show my face and help out where possible and get involved. And then unfortunately on the last day just before Christmas, did my ACL, and that was it for that year.
But then you didn't play, but you still got named for the World Cup, was it?
Yeah, so I didn't play Super Rugby that year, and then I played a couple of club games, and then I remember we went over again, went to New Zealand, and it was the Bledisloe, and it was my first game back. And I remember during the week, Knuckles was the coach at the time, John Connolly. He said to me, he goes, "Lath, we're going to start you." And I was like, Knuckles, mate, you can't do that. Like, it's my first game back, really. I've played 2 club games of footy this year. Could you just please put me on the bench? And, I'll just find my way back into the game. I'm really nervous about this. And he ummed and ahed, and he thankfully agreed. But ironically, 25 minutes into the game, I get a tap on the shoulder from the manager. Lath, you're on. And I was like, fuck, thanks. And on I went, and I obviously got through the game, obviously, and then it just went on from there.
Yeah, brilliant. And then I'm just going through your career because, like you say, you've had such a long career. But after the World Cup, then was that when you made the move to Worcester?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, played 2 years at Worcester, and then.
Easy decision to go over there, Chris, or was it quite a hard one?
No, it was very hard, actually. The Reds had been such a I don't know, a home to me, really. It was a place where I pretty much grew up, and I became, instead of being this quiet, country kid who didn't really know much about the world, I certainly grew up a lot because of everything that the Reds instilled in me. Obviously not only on the field rugby, but the sort of things that were instilled in me about what it meant to be a Reds player, and how to carry yourself as being a Reds player, and the traditions and the players and everything that went before me, that before I got there, all those kind of things were instilled in me, and and they're all things that just ring true to life in general living, and and I owe it to and I felt that I felt very honoured, and I felt very it just felt like a family, just felt like home there. And so to leave was very, very difficult. It was a decision that, I wish I never had to have made, and I wish I'd never had to leave. But, all good things come to an end, and that's, unfortunately that's rugby life. You can't do it. You can't be a rugby player your whole life. There comes a time where, the next generation comes through, your body starts to give way, everything starts to go, and it's time. And so I headed to Worcester for 2 years, and then an opportunity came to go to Japan. So we went there for 2 years after that.
And is it the team you played in Japan? Was that the team you went on to coach as well?
No. So I played 2 years there, and then came home for about 3 or 4 months, and then then an opportunity came to coach with Docomo, a team in a team in Osaka, and so I went there and ended up coaching there, staying there and coaching there for I think almost 7 years.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I've got it down here actually. Coaching Japan 7 years or so. So when you went to obviously transitioning from a player to a coach, was that something you always wanted to do then, or?
No, it's probably the last thing I wanted to do.
Really? Right.
Yeah, and to be honest, when I went over to Japan, I really respected and got on really well with the Kontoku there, and I said to him, I go, mate, I honestly just don't know how I'm going to go with coaching. I don't know if I'm going to like it or not. So he said to me, he goes, well, just come over for 3 weeks, and then come home, and then we'll just get you on a little bit of a spot coach. So I went for 3 weeks, and into the second week had passed, and he said, oh, do you think we could get you for another 3 weeks and not go home? And so obviously rang my wife and sorted all that out. And so I stayed, and then got to the end of that, and he goes, actually, could you just stay for 3 months, make it 3 months? And and then and that just kept going. And then I ended up just staying year to year to year. Like I was only ever contracted from year to year. And I'd always said that, you know, you can always let me go and I can always walk if things don't work out. And as it turned out, I was there for 7 years.
You must have loved it then, Chris, to be that long, innit? You know?
Yeah, I did. I really did. It grew on me. You know, I started to get the same passion that I had from when I was playing for coaching. And, you know, the thing that I loved about rugby was, you know, you can train a skill or you can do something as a player and you can work on it. And then when it comes off at training, you know, a backline move or a team move or an individual skill, whatever it might be, it comes off. And just the sheer enjoyment out of, you know, knowing you put in all that hard work and for it to work and come off, you know, I love that about the game. And it was just obviously one of the aspects I love about the game. And then to transfer that into coaching was, you know, to be able to you know, instill and encourage and, you know, just get players to broaden their horizon and get them to try new things and to give them new skills and things like that, but then watch them transfer that onto the field. You know, I got the same buzz. So
you see a lot of like Australian, New Zealanders, they go to Japan to play now as well, don't they? Even British, to be honest. But back then, was it many like foreigners going over then, or was it mainly Japanese players in the team?
No, there was a lot of foreigners.
Oh,
so yeah, like there was at least, I think there was 7 when I was there. There was 7 field at one time. So, you know, every team, you know, at least had 7 foreigners, plus obviously extras as well. So yeah, no, there was a lot.
You could definitely see, like obviously in the Japanese national team, they had a cracking World Cup, didn't they? Yeah, just gone, wasn't it? Was it just gone?
Yeah, yeah.
I've gone blank now. Which just gone, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And even in 2015, they beat South Africa, didn't they? Like, who would have thought ever Japan would beat South Africa in a rugby match? But you just see them growing and growing and growing. So it's that's awesome. And then from Japan, Chris, you went into backs coach to help Samoa for their World Cup.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to then help Samoa in their World Cup qualifying games to qualify. So we did that, and then I was, you know, I had the great pleasure of going to the World Cup and being the backs coach for them at the World Cup in Japan. And so, you know, to obviously play in 3 and coach in 1, it was amazing.
Do you ever coach Samoa against the Wallabies?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, you did? Yeah,
we played them in Sydney, and we ended up losing by 4 points.
I wonder how that, like, even Eddie Jones now coaching England against the Wallabies, like, what is that like for like a coach to, like, is it hard or is it just work business?
It's the most difficult thing, in all honesty, is when the national anthem start, because
to sing now.
Yeah, because obviously, you know, I did the work and, you know, learnt the Samoan national anthem, and then the Aussie one came on, and it was kind of, and I was kind of like, I didn't even think about it until instantly I went, am I allowed to actually sing this? Should I sing this? Is it ethical? Like, am I right or wrong? And then before I knew it, you know, I just was like singing it. And then after that, I mean, it's just about, you know, coaching's about wins and losses, isn't it? So it's like any other game.
That's a good point. I'll have to keep an eye out next time. Maybe, like you say, we've got a New Zealander ourselves, haven't we? Wayne Pivac, was he singing the anthem? I don't know. I haven't really noticed. They never put it on the coaches, do they, when the anthems are on? That's an interesting thought. And then your most recent, you went to Major League Rugby and helped the Utah Warriors out for a bit too. And you've made massive progression with them too, didn't you?
Yeah. So we went. So I went over there as a head coach, and they were a team that it's quite interesting when I looked at them. You know, when I got approached. So I just I actually got approached when I was over at the World Cup, and it took me well by surprise. So I obviously didn't initially say yes, but then when I looked into the rugby and the Utah rugby, you know, that it was quite interesting to find that, you know, over the 3 years that they've been in the MLR, they'd only won 2 games. The most games they'd ever won was 2, and yet statistically they were, you know, they were up there quite high, and then after watching a few games, you know, you could really see. Well, I could see where I felt I could make a good impact and how I could help. So I took the job, and yeah, unfortunately we were 6 games into it, and when COVID first hit the world, and I think we were on four wins, 1 loss and 1 draw, and yeah, and unfortunately then COVID hit and stopped the comp, and that was it. And then I put together, and then during that time, then, you know, obviously put my own team and squad together, and yeah.
Brilliant. I was reading a bit before you coming on about, and I went on the Utah Warriors page, and they thought so highly of you when you did a massive turnaround for them. Like you said, they started winning a lot more games and stuff. So that's awesome. And like, you know, even the was it Major League Rugby? That's another growing league, isn't it? Like, you've had your old team, Matt Gitto over there, didn't you? Adam Ashley Cooper, Manon, who's been over there. So I think that's gonna take off soon over in America. Well, it's taken off now, really, the way it's going.
It's a real, you wouldn't call it a sleeping giant, because everyone knows about, obviously, you know, the US and the athletes and everything like that. But yeah, as far as the MLR goes, and, you know, USA Rugby goes, you know, if they can work it out right and get it right, they'll become the power. I can see them becoming a huge powerhouse in world rugby. Unfortunately, yeah, USA Rugby and MLR, they don't kind of communicate and get on that well and work well together. But, you know, if they can sort that out, and they can get major sponsors into the MLR and get that competition really pumping, having seen firsthand the amount of athletes that are over there, you know, you get that right, you get the right coaches in that can get those athletes to understand and play rugby, they will be a huge powerhouse in the world rankings. But yeah, it's all gonna come down to whether or not they can work out their differences.
Yeah, the world has to look out if they come on the scene. Like you said, yeah. they've got so many sports too, haven't they? I know they've got the population to do it, but like you said, they've got the basketball, NFL. Yeah, like ice hockey's huge over there, isn't it? But the same as like I was telling you before, I lived in Australia. I don't think a lot of people from the UK realize, you know, Australia rugby union is like, it's not up there compared to like the rugby league. AFL is huge, isn't it? Cricket's huge, soccer's huge. You know,
we'd been probably number 5 or 6 if you're lucky.
Yeah,
from a sports.
And the Wallabies are still like one of the best teams in the world. You know, so imagine, like, I always thought before I went to Australia, I thought, oh, Wallabies is, you know, it's huge. It's gonna be rugby everywhere. But like, I was over there for the Lions 2013, and like the Lions and the Wallabies match had like a tiny article. I was living in Victoria, obviously. AFL rules the roost down there, but it's quite crazy, like the talent Australia's got in rugby, but how low the ranks it is, you know. But I think that's the same as America, in the sense of there's so many other sports ahead of rugby. Like if they're big and muscular and fast, they'll go and try and play NFL, you know. But yeah, what's the plan then, Chris? You got, you know, what are you up to these days? Are you involved in any coaching, or you're an ambassador to get the World Cup to you to the Australia 2027?
So, well, no, I'm not an ambassador, but obviously put my word in where I can. But no, I'm back home. I've obviously, my son, he's in that probably critical year of schooling now, of year 9. He's just about to finish year 9, and move into year 10. And so being at home is obviously pretty important for me now. And so I've just started to coach a local club team, Souths here in Brisbane. They're obviously a well-known club team here in Brisbane. And so just going to coach them and see how things go there this year with the premiership and with the season. And then, from what happens from there on in, I'm just not sure at the moment.
Brilliant. Is it like maybe a dream for you to maybe coach the Reds one day, or you're not even thinking?
No, that's an ultimate dream, mate. That's if I think back to when someone said to me, "Would you like to play for the Wallabies?" when I first started playing rugby, that's kind of the same feeling I have for coaching the Reds. Obviously that would be my ultimate goal, would be to achieve that.
Brilliant. And I reckon you will get there too, because you can see the work ethic you put in, like as a player and obviously now as a coach, how much you put involved in it, in the sport, But that's brilliant, Chris. I got a couple of quick questions for you before I let you go, though. All the rugby players I've had on, I've asked them the similar question, so I'll do the same with you. Favorite venue you played in, arena or stadium or anywhere?
Millennium Stadium, or obviously Ballymore for the Reds when it was here.
I thought you were going to say Ballymore, to be honest, because when I read up about you, all you talk about is scoring a try on the hill. Is it the hillside?
Yeah.
Yeah, you talk highly.
Yeah, so obviously Ballymore won, but Millennium Stadium too.
Brilliant. Best player you've played with and against?
Oh, mate, I just loved playing with Christian Cullen for a Barbarian game, and obviously against obviously Andre Jabeur, actually.
Oh, Jabeur, yeah.
Yeah, the Rolls Royce. He taught me everything I needed to know about positional play without actually ever knowing he probably did, to be honest. That bloke, just wherever you kicked the ball or wherever that ball was, he was there.
Brilliant.
And just had a knack.
You meant to pick one of your Wallaby mates for your best player with mine, Chris, not an All Black. No, I use class Christian Cullen, like you said.
That would be too obvious if I picked a Stephen Larkham or someone like that.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, that's what I like asking. Like I've had Adam Jones on, yourself, Ben Franks, All Black prop. He's won 2 World Cups, and I love you because it's people I least suspect as well. Normally they go for the traditional, their own teammates, but no, I appreciate that, Chris. And go on and give us a prediction for Saturday, if you can.
Well,
what do you think is going to happen?
Obviously, the heart says Australia.
Yeah.
But obviously, but then you see Wales coming off the loss against South Africa, where it could have easily gone the other way. They'll be hurting. Both mentally, they'll be hurting, and they'll be wanting to make that wrong or right. So it's gonna be a tough job for the Wallabies, very, very tough. But obviously the heart will always say Wallabies, but it won't be by much if they do.
Let's just hope for a good test match, Chris, isn't it?
Well, and that's the beautiful thing about Wales and playing against Wales, and especially there at that stadium. It just breathes and breeds for running rugby, and open play and fast, and everything about Wales is about playing fast and hard rugby. So I'm sure it will be that.
Brilliant. So like I said, I'll be there for that, and I'm sure you'll have your alarm clock set, Chris. So we'll enjoy that Saturday. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel too, guys, the CD Sport Podcast, and you can find and follow me on Instagram as well, also the CD Sport Podcast. Thanks for that, Chris.
Go easy.
Chris Latham, everybody. You.